This is Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 17 from the King James Version. These words are spoken in Jerusalem after the return from exile, when the people of Judah gather for worship and public confession. The Levites lead a long prayer that retells Israel's history, naming both rebellion and mercy. They are not pretending the past was clean. They are remembering what God was like, even when his people were not faithful. They refused to obey, neither were mindful of thy wonders that thou didst among them, but hardened their necks, and in their rebellion appointed a captain to return to their bondage. But thou art a God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and forsookest them not. Nehemiah 9 verse 17, KJV. This verse holds two truths side by side: the seriousness of sin and the steadiness of God's mercy. At this point in the story, the people are looking back on earlier generations, especially the time after God brought Israel out of Egypt. God had shown wonders among them. He had delivered them, led them, and provided for them. And yet the verse says they refused to obey. It says they were not mindful of what God had done. It says they hardened their necks, which means they became stubborn, resistant, and unwilling to turn. Then it describes something shocking. In rebellion, they appointed a captain to return to their bondage. They were so fearful and so resistant that they wanted to go back to the slavery God had rescued them from. That is the honesty of this prayer. It does not excuse sin. It names it plainly. But the center of a verse is not Israel's failure. The center is God's character. Thou art a God ready to pardon, not reluctant, not hesitant, ready, gracious and merciful. Grace is God giving kindness that is not earned. Mercy is God holding back the judgment that is deserved. Slow to anger, not indifferent to evil, but patient, measured, not quick to destroy, and of great kindness, not small kindness, not occasional kindness, great kindness. And then the sentence ends with a steady, quiet statement, and forsookest them not. Even when they turned away, God did not abandon them. The single truth here is clear. God is ready to pardon, even when sin has been real and rebellion has been stubborn. The scene behind these words is not a perfect people standing proudly. It is a humbled people standing together, listening, remembering, and admitting what happened. In that kind of moment, God is not presented as fragile or easily driven away. He is presented as faithful, patient, and kind. In your own life, this verse does not promise that consequences disappear or that life becomes easy. It simply reveals who God is: a God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, great in kindness, not quick to forsake. If you return to this verse again, let it remind you what God is like when people have nothing left to defend. Come back to this verse when you need steady truth, and let it remain with you a little longer. Subscribe to Jesus-DailyVerse for more calm, scripture-faithful verses and reflections.